Radio. This is the Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. We're live Thursday, July 18th. Yes, I'm back from my mini ruined vacation. Another reason to dislike Trump, but right now, very happy to have in studio Elie Mystal. You see him, in fact, earlier he's on basic cable, walked over, now he upgraded to satellite radio. Right here, Elie Mystal, editor-in-chief of Above the Law, and does a fabulous job on cable whenever he's on. Nice seeing you, Elie.
Thanks for having me, Dean.
Good to see you. Do not be distracted by the drawing on your left.
I want to know. Is Bernie going to have to stand next to Warren this time?
We're playfully mocking because I get paid to write weekly for them for CNN, but CNN's doing a drawing for the Democratic presidential debates on who gets it, whichever one. And as I told an executive there, I said this is both perfect and horrific at the same time, the time of Trump, because a reality show president having you literally pulling it out of balls out of a hat, or however they'll do it. Who gets on what night is perfect, but it's also, you are a news outlet. What are you doing? You don't have to do this. Just tell us who there's getting it. Maybe the only argument they can have is about transparency. That's their only argument, could be.
It's all dumb. The whole every time you have, we saw this with the Republicans in 2016, right? Like, anytime you have an overcrowded field, like, things get silly and dumb. And this is silly and dumb. And we live in a digital age with a 24-hour news cycle where CNN is not just trying to compete with MSNBC and Fox right now, but they're trying to compete with Sirius XM Progress. Right. They're trying to compete with Hulu. They're trying to compete
Facebook,
with
Instagram, video, everything.
And
you're
so
right.
They're throwing everything against the wall to try to see what what's going to stick. And so we have this stupidity. It's just amazing that, like, given everything that's going on, right? Given the real stuff, the real stuff that's going on, given that the Republican Party is devolving into open white supremacy, given all of the action. I was just on Ari Melber, right, and we were joking offset about, like, how the story today about Cohen, the release of Cohen's documents that really show just how deep involved Trump was in ordering the hush money payments. Like, that was Ari's block 4, and Ari's a goddamn lawyer who cares about it.
And also shooting down a drone.
Yeah,
it became like nothing. Like, for 1 minute, I'm like, well, Trump did this to get that other stuff out of the news. Nope, it didn't even work. Right. It's about the drawing. We have the lottery. Oh, wow. And look, I don't want to look at it because I'm going to start doing live commentary on the drawing. Don't look away. You'll turn to sand. Don't look.
Who gets the sesame bagel and who gets the pumpernickel bagel?
But Elie made the great point. It's not only the drawing, it's after the drawing when they go, oh no, Kamala's going to be on the stage as Biden. Biden's got to share stage with Kamala. What's going to happen? Sparks a flight. I want to play these 2 short clips. Lauren, are you ready? To me, that sums up the divide between the Democratic Party right now and the party of Trump. And it's really the divide between America, I'm not even being hyperbolic, and Trump, because the values are not intersecting at all any longer. Here is last night, Donald Trump, the Unite the White rally. Let's hear a little bit of the thing. And then the woman they were saying, send her back. Here's Ilhan Omar walking into Minneapolis airport a short time ago, coming out of security and being surprised by this. Honestly, which side do you want to be on when you listen to that? Do you the welcoming side or send her back side?
I have some writing coming up about this, but my essential point here is that this election is so simple. Actually, we have drawings, we have game shows, we have all this stuff going on. It's so goddamn simple, right? The party of Trump, the Republican Party, is now an openly white supremacist, bigoted party.
Right.
On November 3rd, 2020, everybody's going to have a choice to vote for a bigot, a misogynist who commits crimes against humanity and does not respect American values, or not. That's all. Or not. You could vote for all of that, or you couldn't, right? I don't know who the Democratic nominee is going to be. I don't know what particular policy, but they will not be Donald Trump. And if that's not enough for you, if you're an independent, I just don't know. One side wants to give health care to these children. The other one wants to make them drink out of toilets for my amusement. How can I choose? Like, it's not actually hard. And it's not going to, that doesn't mean that we don't have to be terrified. It doesn't mean that we don't have to work. It doesn't mean that all these other things don't have to happen. But in terms of, maybe I'm just being a little bit too intellectual about it, right? But in terms of the intellectual difficulty of the choice, it is not hard. It is simply a question of what kind of country we're going to decide to be. And quite frankly, it's a question of what kind of country, 20% of white people in the middle are going to decide to be, because 45% on both sides have already made up their minds. Right? Like we're 45% on both sides are already in. So I said 20%, I meant 10%. But like it's the 10% in the middle just have to decide now like what kind of person they're going to be.
Do you think this is one of the big elections that historians will look back as one of the crossroads for which way this country went? Are we going to go the route of those European countries now where they're electing far-right people or anti-immigrant, anti-Muslim, openly anti people of color? Or are we going to remain a country with, we got race and white supremacy, but it's more in the fringes of society, not in the mainstream?
I want to say yes, because weirdly, yes is the hopeful answer.
Right.
Yes is we could still not be these people. I think that moment has passed us. I think the moment that people are going to look back on is 2016, when an immensely qualified, if somewhat uninspiring woman ran and was beaten by an open misogynist who talked about grabbing people by the genitals based on his reality TV experience, and won. And not that he is the cause of all this, but he has unleashed all of this racism. And you can't easily put this all back in the box. I mean, people, I don't want to like be hyperbolic. We fought a goddamn war over this. All right. Like this is not something that you play with.
Like you don't want to be hyperbolic. I just had Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence on from Michigan who said to me, we know what Trump is. He's a racist. And she said she was more upset by that rally, watching those people chant, send her back, than anything Trump has ever said. I thought it was very interesting that she said that.
I think that's, again, I think that's almost the hopeful way. Again, as I've said on this show, on many shows, Trump is not the cause. He is the symptom.
Right.
And the cause are these people. It's the people that he speaks for, the people he's always spoken for, the people who maybe in the past did not vote for an open racist because they didn't know that was an option. But now that they have this option, and that's what I'm saying. So how do you ever put this back in the bag? For the rest of my life, at least, there is always going to be a Republican who thinks that I can be president if I just rile up the same racist Trump base.
Sure.
And they're going to try that every election going forward, every state and local election going forward. There is going to be a Republican who thinks that the way that he can win, and it's most likely going to be a he, is to explicitly rile up racism and sexism to promote their own career. So I don't know that you can, if he get lost in 2016, I think the Republican Party might have finally figured out that, look, we just can't be white. We can't go hardcore white supremacists. But because he's
massive turnout by us and people who have not checked in a while. The other way,
so like if he loses,
if we win the Senate, keep the House, win the Senate, win the White House, it could change things. And one of those ways might be the economy needs to slide a little. I'm not pushing for that, but that takes away the argument of those people who don't care about any of this stuff. They're really not tuned in at all because we follow this with the minutiae, with such detail. We're angry every minute because that's the world we live in. There are a big swath of America does not know anything we're talking about, these tweets or anything. They're like, I don't know what you're talking about. They go, the economy's good. I'm going to vote for the guy. Or economy sucks. I'm not voting for him. Those other people just check in to vote every 4 years, if that, are the ones that may be affected by the economy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm old. I remember Walter Mondale lost 49 states.
Yes, I remember that.
Right? Like if Trump loses 49 states, that would be a message to the Republican Party. And look, he could if everybody votes. If everybody votes and if everybody understands, as much as I dog Republicans for being openly white supremacists and being okay with that, like people have to remember, I said this earlier today, like a majority of white people are going to vote for Trump. We know that already.
There's no doubt.
They already did, and they already have a majority of white people. Sorry, the right stat is the white majority has voted for the Republican in every presidential election since 1964 and the passage of the Civil Rights Act. That's not an accident, folks.
Right.
White people are going to be voting for Trump. Just mark that down, all right? He's going to win a majority of the white vote. But a majority of white people in this country is still a minority of this country. Right? There are enough non-whites and Jews and Arabs and first generation and second generation people from other places. There are enough and there are enough whites who openly reject this kind of stuff that if we all come together, we've got them beat, and we've got them beat in probably every state.
And look what happened in the midterm election. I talked about this earlier. Not only did we win 40 House seats, but we won the House popular vote by 10 million votes, a little over 10 million, which was the biggest raw number victory in the history of midterm elections. Yeah. Hillary only won by 2.9 million. Yeah. We won the House popular vote by 10 million. And everyone got the vote, folks. There was no electoral college. We just came out more and voted. We talk about white people. Look, women as a gender now, Trump's approval rating is the lowest. Men are, it's like almost 50-50, depending on the race, of course. But of women overall, Trump has about a 38% approval rating. But in the midterm, Trump did not win white women, but he tied 49%. You know, you see what's going on. You saw how horrible he was. And yes, thankfully, a majority of white women who had voted for him in 2016 did not repeat that in 2018. But still, it was that close. And that was a key. That was suburban white women a lot that changed this election.
White women, I think it's, you know, when you look at the literature, when you look at the scholarship, what you see is that white women, about half of them, realize that it's, or decide that it's in their best interest to keep being white than it is to do anything to advance the cause of women. That is just, again, that's just a fact of this country. And that fact, I mean, I dog Becky a lot, but you know, there are not legitimate, but there are real reasons, right? It's not just pure evil, right? Because women don't make as much as men, because women are not given the same kind of educational and social opportunities as men. There are, especially when you are lower down on the economic scale, for so many white women, their economic just social value is tied to their husband's economic and social value, right? Like that white women in lower socioeconomic situations are very likely to vote like their white male husbands, even for policies that disparage them, is actually a sign of the oppression they face, as opposed to a mere exploration of their evil. That said, when you then talk about like resting your campaign or resting the ability to beat Trump on white women figuring it out this time, that ain't gonna happen either, right? It's gonna be close. Maybe it's 48-49, maybe it's 49-40, but it's, you know, Trump is not going to lose white women 60-40.
No.
He's gonna lose black women 90-10. All right?
I think actually even higher. In 2016, black women over 90%
he's
voted
going to lose Hispanic women, you know, 86 to 15. Women, the men are going to be harder, right?
Good point.
So when you look at the gender gap in our politics, that gender gap is not a white gender gap. That gender gap is being incredibly driven by women of color, which is exactly who Trump has decided to be particularly racist to this week.
I'm telling you, Elie Mystal. Elie, you're a dad. We've talked about this. You know, your kids are seeing a guy in the White House, and
no, they ain't.
Or they're seeing
Pokemon right now. I'm not letting them watch. Sorry,
but I mean, how old are your kids?
Almost 4 and almost 7.
All right. Well, clearly the 7-year-old is aware of what's going on. The 4-year-old might be, but they're last night. You know, a crowd of thousands cheered for a black woman to be sent back to Africa. I mean, how does that get processed? You're the parent. You're looking at your kids. How do you deal with this?
Well, you know, we have not had the go back to Africa talk with my 7-year-old yet. God. We will have to. I mean, but we would have had to regardless of what Trump just said. You know, every grown black person, every grown brown person has a story about the first time they were told to go back to Africa.
I've been told many times. Go
right?
back
I'm sure you
go back to the Arab world.
Wherever the hell, right?
Wherever, Aladdin land, wherever you're from.
Go back to Agrabah.
Go to Agrabah. That's right. Go back to Agrabah, you Aladdin guy.
So yeah, the first time I got told to go back to Africa, I was in 3rd grade.
Really?
Yeah, I was smart. I was just like, what country? Doesn't matter. Just go back. And I'm like, well, if it's that, I mean, we're all from Africa, so why don't you go first?
That's funny. That's right. So so growing up, you heard this from racists and bigots.
And so at some point we will have to tell our kid, I mean, just like I was told how to respond to that when I heard it, we will have to explain to our kid both of them are boys, how to address that when they hear it. But almost for me, it's almost like the Go Back to Africa is like way down on the list. We still haven't gotten to the N-word with our kid, right? Like this was the we don't use that word. Look, I am not one of these guys who says that black people should or should not use the N-word. Like that is every individual black man's or black woman's choice to make. In my particular house, we do not use that word. Right. It does not make me better or worse than anybody. It's just a choice, okay? Just don't at me.
Something has happened clearly.
Right?
Go ahead.
But so we haven't really gotten to explaining that word to him. But this was, this past year for Martin Luther King Day was the first year that we really hit Martin Luther King Day. We were really like, this is why this is important, whatever. And so we heard that word, and he didn't really ask a question about it. We really didn't push it, so we just kind of let it go. Next year is going to be like the N-word discussion, right?
This was the year after that is the white devil discussion.
This is the year that we really emphasize Juneteenth, right? So when you're building up a young black person in this country, there are all kinds of like situations and conversations that you have to prepare them to, because all that crap that Trump is doing is something that's going to happen on the playground.
Yeah, exactly. It's a real life. It trickles down. Exactly. What do you say to a child when you have that conversation? I'm not sure if you've given it a lot of thought. When someone says, go back to Africa, you should go back to Africa.
Yeah. So again, in my upbringing, and this is what when we get to that conversation, what we'll try to impart to our children. I always, when I was smaller, I always liked to respond to that with science, because I was good with science, and most kids are bad at science, or they're kind of scared of science, right? So whenever I could come back with like, a real, like, to the extent that like a 12-year-old has it, but like a real fucking understanding of like evolutionary biology, like I always found that to be useful, right? But it's gonna be, my sister, who's a little bit younger than me, was kind of more artistic, and so like her comebacks were always kind of more based in the art and culture world. It's really going to be what I feel kind of the overall point is that you have to teach your children, or children have to learn how to combat the racism they will undoubtedly face in their life in a way that feels natural to them. Because if it doesn't feel natural to them, then that gear shift is so much harder. If I'm like, okay, the only way that you can respond to it is this boy, and then he hears it, and he's got to, and like the way that I would respond to it is so different than his, then he's got to like do all this like extra thinking and did it. The way you want it to be is so that the way that he's been taught to cope and respond is so naturally keeping with his own personality and whatever that it just rolls off his tongue. Because if it rolls off his tongue, then guess what? He can just roll on with his life. He can just waste as little, and that's maybe the best point, right? Waste as little time on these racist nincompoops as you possibly can.
And that's a great point. I mean, for me, when it's like, go back to your country, I'm always like, Jersey? I have to go back to New Jersey now? I mean, I like New York City, but I will. All right, let's take
They tore down Shea. I have no place to go back to.
So let's take a quick break. We'll come back, talk to Elie Mystal about his great article in The Nation about the federal courts and what's going on, how this has been Mitch McConnell's dream, and Trump is just an enabler of a horrific right-wing dream. It was the front page cover story for The Nation. So we'll come back right after this. Look, it's time the media start calling out Trump's false statements for what they are. Lies. Trump is a liar. And by the looks of it, he's lying every day and twice on Sundays.
The Dean Obadala Show. to the Dean Obeidallah Show on SiriusXM Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're live Thursday, July 18th, and the winning numbers of the lottery are Beto. We're waiting for
CNN embarrassing themselves.
It is embarrassing when it's going. We're watching the commercial breaks. They're doing the drawing. I don't want to tell you that, so you go switch and watch it. Don't worry, folks. After the show, you can find exactly who did it. I'm here with Elie Mystal, editor-in-chief of Above the Law, and you see him on cable news doing a great job. So you have a cover story in The Nation, which is very prestigious, folks. This is remarkable. It's called Donald Trump and the Plot to Take Over the Courts. Let's touch on a few things, and then you can elaborate any way you want. But you talked about Trump administration has confirmed 123 judges, including 41 to the Federal Court of Appeals. So much more than Obama at this time. Explain to us first why the disparity.
Okay, so first of all, let's explain just what the circuit courts are.
Okay,
right,
sure.
Right, lower court, because a lot of people don't understand. It's the rung right below the Supreme Court, and these circuit courts are hugely important. Everybody's heard about the Ninth Circuit, but if the Ninth Circuit is why there was no Muslim ban for a while, and why DACA is still a thing. Like, these circuit courts are incredibly important. One of the stats that I use in the article is that the Supreme Court heard 70 cases last year. That's out of 7,000 that were appealed up to the Supreme Court from the circuit courts, to say nothing of the thousands of cases that weren't even appealed, right? So for a lot of places in the country, the circuit court is the final law, not the Supreme Court, right? In that context, 41 so far circuit judges for Trump, only 19 by the same point for Obama. And the reason why is because Mitch McConnell is Darth Vader. Like, everybody remembers Mitch McConnell blocking Merrick Garland, and why, and how did he do this? Man, Merrick Garland was just the tip of the iceberg, right? Merrick Garland was like the capstone on an entire career of blocking Obama judges. Mitch McConnell was blocking Obama judges when Mitch McConnell was the minority leader, right? And then certainly once he came to the majority leader, he just stopped every lower court nomination that Obama had, so that by the point that Trump took over, there were 106 federal vacancies in our judiciary. Now, I don't know if that's a record, because I imagine George Washington also had a lot of judges to appoint. But, like, for modern times,
not as many circuits,
right?
It's more like one, probably. Then one judge on a horse.
106.
So So what he did, Mitch McConnell, as you're getting to here, is that he had the foresight to say, "Hey, if we win the presidency, I'm going to block all these Obama appointees, including my friend who was nominated, who represented me, his law firm, Lathan & Watkins, in my lawsuit. He was the first Muslim American ever nominated by a federal judge, and even McConnell to the lowest court couldn't say yes to this. So McConnell's blocking them, hoping a Republican wins. Now, if we had won this, folks, if we had come out and won this, we would have gotten not only Supreme Court, we would have been filling these things.
Maybe if we had.
We may.
If we had won the Senate, right. Because if McConnell still had the Senate, he just would have blocked everybody that Hillary wanted to put on.
Right.
Like he completely inverts his constitutional responsibility of advice and consent. He's just an obstructor, right? And he was prepared for it. And so this one of the other places, and we get into this a little bit in the article, but like, as much as we want to hate on Mitch McConnell, dude, we got to be like Mitch McConnell. Mitch McConnell was ready for this moment, and the Democrats weren't, right? So, like, there has been criticism. I don't really do it in the article, but there has been criticism of Obama kind of not being on the ball enough about circuit court judges. And in fairness, he was a bit slow. Now, I also think that you don't blame the homeowner because an arsonist burns down his house, right? Like, I don't want to totally slam Obama there, because the other problem is that it's the entire liberal movement, the entire progressive movement that is not focused enough on the courts.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
With 106 vacancies, they were able to fill them because the Federalist Society had 206 judges ready to go. Judges that they have trained and incubated and promoted to the point where they were ready to become circuit court judges. If we had gotten 106 vacancies, we don't have 106 people that we're ready to appoint tomorrow, right? So that's a failure of organization.
Quick thing, tell people, because the Federal Society might sound like an official organization arm of the government. What is the Federal Society in reality?
It's just a non-profit group that has become the most important.
It's right-wing non-profit. Right-wing.
Right. Sorry. Most important legal non-profit in the country. They claim to espouse libertarian ideals and a strict originalist interpretation of the Constitution. I don't want to get into legal weeds. All that means is that their ideals mean that the Republican agenda wins all the time. That is the best way, the most accurate way to explain libertarianism and originalism.
And you make a great point that the judges Trump has nominated, folks, and this won't be a surprise to you, but it just confirms the love of the white skin that Donald Trump, man who stands with white skin, the orange man who stands with white skin. I was just watching Little Big Man over the weekend, an old movie with Dustin Hoffman about Native Americans. I have this statistic in front of me. Have you memorized it from your article about
78% of the appointees are men and 87% are white.
87% of the nominees of Donald Trump to the federal judges are white and 78% are men. This is not comport with America as we know in any stretch of imagination. They've got out of their way to get white men because that's all Trump cares about. That's that Trump likes, he feels comfortable with, and that's what the Republican Party is about, white men. That's it.
The federal courts under Trump look like your local yacht club more than your local subway system, right? And they're all anti-abortionists, right? And then this is a thread throughout my piece. Trump promised to appoint judges who were against abortion. He has made good on that threat. But people have to understand, if you find a judge who is willing to overturn the precedent that is Roe v. Wade in our country, then what you're also doing is finding a judge who is willing to do a whole lot of other ill stuff. Right? Like Roe v. Wade is not the beginning. Just like I was saying, Merrick Garland was not the beginning, it was the end of a process. Roe v. Wade is an end of a process for these judges that involves them being hostile to all sorts of things. Obviously, LGBT rights, minority rights, voting rights, women's rights across the board. Not just abortion, but also birth control, also equal pay. They're opposed to all of these things. So when you say, I just want judges who are against abortion, understand what that means. You want judges who are against a whole just smorgasbord of rights. I say in the piece, the only rights the Trump judges respect either flow from God or the barrel of a gun.
It's a lot of Christian Sharia law meets guns. I mean, let's be honest. So you talk about the judges on women's issue are horrible, and then you just touch on that. LGBT equality, horrible. You highlight a few. I wish we had like the dating game music to play here. Meet Don Willett, Fifth Circuit judge. Tell us, are there a couple in your article? I have a couple here I was going to ask you about, but are there a couple that stand out in your mind that typify how horrible these appointees have been and what they're really about in the real world, like their impact of their decisions will be?
Yeah, I mean, look, the hardest thing about this piece was limiting it to 7.
And not vomiting while you're
they're easily 20 more that are just as bad as the 7 I highlighted. For your show, I figured we could talk about Mark Norris.
Of course.
And that is me being slightly biased because I know your background.
Right.
Mark Norris is a district court judge that has been appointed to Tennessee, and he is the judge that I picked. So the way that I picked these judges was kind of to think of like what are their really bad issues, so I can highlight all of the bad issues along with the bad people. And Mark Norris is the crusader. Mark Norris is the anti-Muslim, anti-Sharia law, like crazy person, to the point that when he was a politician, Norris, before he was a judge, he was the head of the Tennessee Republican Party. Totally impartial, guys. He was so anti-Muslim that he was running ads as a politician trying to get Tennessee to be the first state in the nation to sue the United States over its Syrian refugee policy, saying explicitly that his problem with Syrian refugees is that there weren't enough Christian Syrian refugees.
And he's also, from your great article, he ran one ad that wrote, "Keep terrorists out of Tennessee."
Yeah, we're just showing refugees to be like, keep terrorists out of Tennessee.
He was very much against the idea that they needed a law to ban Sharia law, which you don't need because you have a constitution and supremacy clause, but it doesn't matter. Because the irony, of course, is that they want Christian Sharia law and they are effective at actually implementing it because they control so many state houses. While Muslims, we don't want our Quran. Our Quran's not meant to be the basis of our law. Unless you live in Saudi, yes, but the rest of us, no. But these are the guys out there saying that he only wants the driver's license test to be in English.
Right. Isn't that was one of the things when you live with these people that got really annoying. Like just imagine like the depth of cruelty you have to go through to think like, you know what'd be cool if you could only take like nobody's forcing an English speaker to take a driver's license test in German. All right. That's not happening. Right. But
Maybe
like
Trump has his way, but
you just want to get your license so you can get a car so you can drive to your job. Nope, gotta be in English because Spanish bothers me. So he's, I think, exemplary of some of the just out and out bigotry that Trump is willing to appoint to the bench. I think the other judge, I mean, as I've been talking about, people always want to talk about Amy Coney Barrett. Because Amy Coney Barrett is what happens if Ruth Bader Ginsburg turns out to be mortal. She is the person that the Republicans want to replace Ginsburg with. And that is explicitly, when I say, I am not projecting, I am not making it up, I am not being hyperbolic.
Right.
Republicans have said explicitly that they want Amy Coney Barrett to overturn abortion because she's a woman. And they, for reasons I don't understand, they feel that if a woman overturns abortion, that will be better somehow, as if like,
they can't be called sexist.
It wasn't
a woman
sexist.
A woman
took away a woman's right to choose.
Right.
Duh. And it's the same. This is how Republicans play identity politics. They always want somebody from the oppressed group to join in the oppression to give them cover. That's why Clarence Thomas exists.
That's why Diamond and Silk exists.
That's why Diamond and Silk
That's
exists.
right, because I'm wondering, Diamond and Silk was because was Shuck and Jive too on the nose? Is that why they couldn't do that name? This is I remember I was talking to Christina Greer, who, when I brought up their name, I thought she was going to punch me. She was so angry. We were just talking about how horrible they are. So besides, what's your takeaway in doing this? It's a great article, folks. Again, The Nation. You can read it online as well, right?
Yes.
I read it online. Besides moving to Canada, what are the other takeaways? Is there some takeaway that's inspiring us to understand as Democrats that even if you despise the Democratic candidate for president, that the powers include the legacy of these judges transcend, as you point out in your article, Trump's life, probably our lives, frankly. You're pointing people now who are 38 and 39 to these court positions.
We have to take back the White House, and this is I wrote the article for two reasons. One, because I want Democrats to understand that you are voting for the nominee, goddammit. Because this is what happens when you don't. So you have to vote for the Democratic nominee for president. Right. You also have to take back the Senate. The other reason why I wrote the article is that I really was hoping that maybe one of the 500 interchangeable centrist white guys running for president would go back home and help us take the Senate. Maybe Tom Steyer, with his billions of dollars, could invest that money in a senatorial races as opposed to his egotistical presidential run, right?
Please don't speak badly of Tom Steyer. He funds the show. No, I'm kidding. No, he's a friend of mine. When you say whatever you want. I'm kidding.
When I look at some of the online stuff and some of the Twitter stuff, dogging a Democratic candidate for Senate in Kentucky, Amy McGrath,
right,
for having kind of moderate to conservative principles as she runs against Mitch McConnell, and people are like, she's not a real progressive. Man, shut up. Beating Mitch McConnell would be
unbelievable.
Is the second most consequential thing to do in 2020, right behind beating Donald Trump.
That would be so remarkable. To win the White House and get rid of Mitch McConnell would be changing the future for a generation in this country going forward. Because
if a rabid raccoon could beat Mitch McConnell, I would vote for the rabid raccoon.
So if you're a rabid raccoon, you're looking to run, contact us. So, talking about how Democrats were not moved by judges. I remember in 2016 being a surrogate for Hillary, talking to people in my community who all love Bernie. I love Bernie, and going, even if and they'd be like, she's hawkish in the Middle East a lot. I go, I know, but we could control the Supreme Court. And I'd go through, is women's right choice important? I say yes. Is criminal justice reform, stuff like that? Yes. Voter ID laws, getting rid of them, important? Yeah. I go, this is why it's important. Still, that look on their face like, well.
Is it really important? I've heard people tell me during this cycle that, Biden will nominate judges a lot like Donald Trump.
What?
No.
That's people who don't want Biden. Don't smear each other. Let's win on policy.
It's also people who don't understand how courts work. They're people who simply do not understand the difference, the real core values, legal difference between a Republican judge and a Democratic one. I say to young people when I talk at law schools a lot, I say to young people, if you care about climate change, you have to care about taking back the courts, because and you've heard Republicans say this, I'm sure, they're for deregulation. They want deregulation to the point of anarchy. Well, if you have deregulation, that means you can't have the kind of regulations that we're going to need to address climate change. It is regulation that stops a company from emitting too much carbon. It is regulation that stops a company from dumping methane and mercury into our atmosphere. Like, we need judges who will support regulations. And so if you care about climate change, then you absolutely have to care about the courts.
I agree with you. All right, so let's take a break.
That was for Jill Stein voters. Sorry.
That was anything else you want to add about that article before we switch gears and talk about Mueller's testimony? All right, and again, it's The Nation. It's the cover story in The Nation. You can look it up online. Donald Trump and the plot to take over the courts. And even if you don't like law, you don't need a law degree. Read it. It gives you an understanding of what McConnell's long-term vision. I have to be honest, the Republicans have had a long-term vision on everything, including having a Second Amendment decision that would say that you have a personal right to bear arms, which people would laugh at years ago. For over 20 years, they were advocating that internally in their circles and finally got Supreme Court justice in their Heller case to say that. So they have a long-term vision, and we need to have that. We live for today, Democrats, so much, which is fine. Let's live for today, but also live for the future. Let's take a break, come back with more of the Dean Obeidallah Show on our friend Elie Mystal right after this.
The Dean Obeidallah Show.
Whoever's the next president, we should call them the 45th president of the United States. And this will go down as a dark time in America that we'll never refer to again.
SiriusXM Progress.
You're listening to the Dean Obeidallah Show, SiriusXM's Progress.
And welcome back, Dean Obeidallah Show. We're here with Elie Mystal, and the drawing is over, folks. The CNN drawing is over Tuesday and Wednesday, and Elie
Fix was in.
Right, Elie said before, if it comes down to putting Biden and Kamala in the same night, because it's allegedly out of a hat and it's a lottery, and Bernie and Warren the same night, those two against each other, then the fix is in, and sure enough, it is. So Wednesday night, it's Biden versus Kamala, round 2 with 8 other people. And Tuesday, July 30th, it's Sanders versus Warren, which you didn't have the first debate, and that could be interesting.
It's a fix. They wanted to finally get, and it's really, if they had just said, we're doing it this way for the following reasons, I would accept it. Don't give me your goddamn hat. That's not what happened. You want it Bernie versus Warren because you feel like they're similar and they haven't had a chance to face off. And you want it Biden versus Kamala because Kamala whooped his little butt last time, and you're hoping for fireworks on the second night, right? Not going to happen. They're both too smart to let that happen again.
Right.
But like
right. If Kamala, and you make a great point. Harris going after Biden again is not smart politics. She won.
Right.
You're giving him a rematch. Don't give him a rematch. And he's not going to come after her. I can assure you, he's not coming after her.
It's like Apollo after Rocky won. Like, they ain't going to be no rematch, right? There's no reason for the sequel.
So, and there's 9 Rockies later. But Senator Harris making her point. And I think next debate, because it's a week after this whole racist crap by Trump and send her back, you're going to hear a lot after Trump. And that was a criticism. They didn't go after Trump enough. And I know why. You got at the most 10 minutes, most getting 5. We'll talk about yourself. Next one, I think is gonna be a bang Trump a lot. I really believe.
I think they're gonna bang Trump a lot. And I think they're also they're gonna have the Mueller stuff to talk about next week.
And that's what I wanted to touch on with you. We have Mueller next Wednesday, and it almost seems it has to be different because the House adjourns on that Friday.
Right.
So there cannot be any impeachment change. So that what it brings to, what do you expect from Mueller?
What do I expect, or what do I think the Democrats expect? Because I think
what do you expect? Then we'll talk about what the Democrats expect.
No, I think he's going to read his report like he said that he's going to. He said that his report is his testimony. He is a skilled lawyer. He has testified before Congress before. He's had an extra week to prepare. Democrats are going to try to get him to say various things, and he is going to say, he's going to have like 18 euphemisms for, as I said in my report, blah, 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 blah. Right. As I said in my report, blah, blah, blah. It would be wrong for me to make speculations, but as I said in my report, blah, 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 blah. Like he's just going to.
Why couldn't you exonerate that? Right? The question is going to be, what would you ask him?
Well, we, as I said in my report, we did not reach the determination that we could exonerate him. Right. But why didn't you?
Right.
Well, as I said in my report, we decide, like, that's all it's going to be. He's too smart to get caught, I believe. And so...
What is the right going to ask? What about Benghazi? He's like, I'm not here for Benghazi.
Exactly.
No, come on, Benghazi.
Why didn't you investigate Hillary Clinton?
There was Jimmy Carter in 75 did something you should be 78 you should be looking at.
Isn't it true that Barack Obama killed Colonel Mustard with the candlestick? Like, that's going to be...
Wall at his mosque. Right. It's all intersecting everything together. No, so the Republicans are going to make it, and they're going to be like, why didn't you investigate Hillary? And Mueller's going to go back, here's my mandate from Rod Rosenstein, who Donald Trump appointed, which said specifically what I'm supposed to look at. Yep. So I was not asked to look at that. And they go, well, if you were asked, what have you done? He would say, this is what I was asked to do by Rod Rosenstein. This is my mandate.
No, he might give him that. If you were asked, which I'm a public servant, I would have done what you told me.
Sure,
to do,
right. Exactly. That's the thing.
But it's so he's not going to say again. If the Democrats had just read his report, which we now know that many of them haven't,
right,
they wouldn't need this. What they want, so that's why I'm saying this is what they want. What they're hoping is that all these people out here who didn't read the report will hear the report as Mueller like dryly reads it to them.
The audiobook version of the Mueller report.
And then become enraged and demand impeachment. Like, that's what the Democrats are hoping.
And
I feel that's unlikely.
We do have more Democrats today that have come over. Now it's over 90, right, that are publicly in favor of impeachment. And I think look, there are some Democrats who want, I've talked to members of Congress who are in favor, who said there are other Democrats that are in favor but won't come out publicly. Part of that is their district. The other part is, frankly, in the Democratic House hierarchy, if you want to move up, you can't piss off Pelosi. And this is part of what's going on because they want a chair or they want to move to a committee next year or next cycle if the Democrats hold the House. There's a lot that goes on here.
And Pelosi's powerful, and Pelosi has been doing this for a long time, and Pelosi has a long memory. And part of what, and I said this last week, part of what the friendly fire that we saw from Pelosi at AOC and Ayanna Pressley and the rest of them, part of that was a warning to other Democrats who were like, don't look, I'll go after AOC. So what do you think I'm gonna do to you, Mr. Congressman, nobody who knows who he is, right? Like, part of that was Pelosi's warning to the increasingly mouthy part of her caucus who demands impeachment. It wasn't just because she probably realized that she's not going to silence AOC. AOC is like a host unto herself. Pelosi wasn't going to break her legs, right? But if she could like show to, it's kind of like in a good baseball team or a good football team, you kind of yell at the star player. Not because you really are yelling at the star player, but you want, the slacker, bench guy to like try harder in practice. So you yell at the quarterback. I think that's a little bit of what was going on last week. What's going to change Democrats on impeachment if they're going to change? And you said it already. On Friday, they go home. The Friday after the Mueller hearings, they go home. And if they go home and they have to deal with people in their districts demanding where they stand for impeachment, demanding to know what the deal is and why they won't hold Trump accountable, when they come back to Washington in 2 weeks after that.
Well, in September, they're not coming back, actually. This break,
unless
they're called back, they end July 27th, and they come back the week after Labor Day.
Right.
So they'll come back, they'll do town halls in August. And I would have to be honest, I would imagine if they come back in September and there's no push for impeachment, it's done. It's completely off the table.
But there will be a push for impeachment when they come back in September if they spend August getting yelled at.
Right. But if not, it's over, folks. That's the end of impeachment. And we, maybe we'll talk about it here and there, but if they do not start in September, they're not going to start because we're so in the heart of 2020. They don't want to hurt any Democrat who's running, and I think they should have done this already. And last minute here, because Tom from Baltimore has a good point. Tom, I don't have time to take your call. We have like a minute and a half to the break, but Tom says he is concerned Democrats are not up to the fight. And that's what I hear from people tonight as well. We have like a minute and a half. How concerned are you that Speaker Pelosi and Schumer, they played by old rules and Trump has redone the whole game and they're still playing whatever game you want to call it?
Right.
It's not the same game.
The losing game.
Right,
That's
exactly.
what they're playing.
We've lost control of the narrative. We can't even get it. It's unbelievable. Yeah. We lose everything.
No, I agree with Mr. from Baltimore. Of course.
Tom.
With Tom, you're right. I mean, I very much fear the Democrats as a unit, as an establishment, as a leadership are not ready for the fight. However, we live in an amazing world where everybody can have a voice. And so what we have is a lot of individual Democrats who absolutely are ready for that fight. Right. Some of them are running for president. Some of them are still in Congress. Some of them are in the Senate. But we have a lot of individual Democrats that are ready for the fight. And there's only so much that the establishment can do to silence them.
That's a great point. Let's take a quick break. Come right back.
Dean Obadala Show on SiriusXM Progress 127. The Dean Obadala Show on Sirius XM Progress 127.
And welcome back, Dean Obadala Show. Ay. So, Ellie, we got 2 minutes left. I'm not sure. We
We
really
have the lineup. Bernie and Lauren will be standing together.
It's going to be very interesting. So overall, my friend, I want to talk. There's not time to really bring up the new unsealed documents today about Trump, but we can say top line is Trump appears to have been personally involved in coordinating the payoff to Stormy Daniels the same way Michael Cohen said that. That's the FBI affidavit seems to say.
This is going to be shocking to a lot of your listeners, but it turns out that when thousands of dollars were paid to Trump's affair, Trump did in fact know that they were paying off his mistress. That was a known issue.
So it wasn't like Michael Cohen just like, hey, I think the boss would love it. I just paid off his mistress a few days before the election. After that, it's a Hollywood tape.
Turns out that Michael Cohen was not lying the second time.
So and that's making no press whatsoever because CNN's doing a drawing tonight. And Fox News is demonizing Ilhan Omar. I'm not kidding because I watch over the shoulder of Ellie. And MS is doing the reputable thing about the dangers of Trump's fascism, that's a good thing. Ruth Ben-Ghiata, my friend. So
And
Ellie,
Adam Stewart
and Adam's great too.
He had a great column in the Atlantic.
Ellie, thank you very much, my friend my son for being here for a full hour. I really appreciate it. Check out Ellie's article on thenation.com. I tweeted it out. I just retweeted it a short time ago again. On Facebook.com, Dean of Radio. Where are you on Twitter? Tell people.
At LENYC, ELIENYC.
Thanks for tuning in. Be back tomorrow. All new live show right here on the Dean Obadala Show.